There haven't been any leads whatsoever. We have no clues to go off. I miss you, and I wish you would come home. The whole family misses you.
That was Tanya Tolliver, daughter of missing person Betty Alexander. Betty has been missing for almost 3 months at this point, and we've got a few significant risk factors with this case. Tanya reached out to me asking for help, and now I'm reaching out to you asking for yours. It's time to turn on the searchlight for Betty Alexander. Hey everyone, John Lorden here. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Brainscratch Searchlight. So here is a poster for missing person Betty Alexander. We can see her look seems to have changed pretty significantly, and her daughter Tanya even mentions this in some interviews. You can see that her hair color has recently changed. She's lightened it quite a bit. She's put in some highlights. Tanya says that she has also recently lost weight. So that's why we've got images here that seem pretty different. Also, I believe that her glasses have been removed from this image. And for her eye color, I'm hearing in most places that it's blue. One place has it listed as gray. I know some people tell me that I kind of have gray-blue eyes as well, so just keep that in mind. But other information we can find out here is her age at the time of her disappearance is 69 years old. The date she was last seen was April 10th, 2019. Her family believes that she might have actually disappeared either the evening of the 10th or early in the morning of April 11th, and we'll get into those details as we continue. Last known location, Center Street Apartments in Sullivan, Missouri. She stands, this says 5 feet tall. I've seen other sources that say 4'10", 4'11", so somewhere between there. Somewhere between 4'10" and 5 feet tall. Weight about 145 pounds. Hair dark brown with all over blonde highlights. And here they do have her eyes listed as blue. As you can see, they've got several different places that you can contact. I will have most of those numbers in the description box below as well. And they have also hired a private investigation firm. Their contact information will be down there. But of course, the police department and an anonymous tip line, which can be very useful in cases like this. Thankfully, Betty is already in NamUs. We can see here's a different picture of her with her glasses on. They're really circulating the photo of her without glasses on because her glasses were found at her home. So we're relatively certain she doesn't have her glasses with her. But let's go through the NamUs information. Date of last contact here, they're saying April 11th, 2019, and there is a possible sighting that we're going to cover here that might explain that as well. Missing from Sullivan, Missouri at the age of 69 years. Here they're listing her height at 4'11", weight about 150. She is a white Caucasian. Yeah, the NamUs case was created really, really fast. I'm really happy to see that. It's too often that we see a big time lag there. Circumstances of disappearance. Alexander was last seen in her garden at approximately 3 p.m. Family had no contact for several days and went to the residence. Alexander's glasses, shoes, and purse were at the residence. So that's another thing that's really interesting. She might not be wearing shoes as well. She has not had her medications since April 10th, 2019. And we'll learn more about that as we get into the details. For hair color, here they have it listed as brown. For eyes, they're listing them here as gray. No distinctive physical features. We're going to bump into some more information to give us a little more detail on that. We don't know what she's wearing in terms of clothing and accessories, and there is no mode of transportation. From what I understand, Betty actually didn't even drive. She had a non-driver's license that was left at home as well. So where is this taking place? This is in Sullivan, Missouri. Sullivan is a city that straddles the border of Franklin and Crawford counties in the U.S. state of Missouri. Population was 7,081 at the 2010 census. The feeling I get just from using Google Maps and kind of looking around the area has a bit of a small town feel, kind of Main Street USA type of feel to it, and I'll share some of that with you as we continue forward. But what else can we get for details over at texasequisearch.org? She was not wearing her glasses. Betty is of fair complexion and has shoulder-length brown hair with blonde highlights. She also has a scar on her back from a past surgery. So there we at least get a little bit of a unique physical descriptor for her. Continuing on to, this is actually an article from mysullivannews.com, but it has been removed from the site, so I've pulled it up on a Google cache here. Ground search for missing woman suspended. This is Sunday, April 14th, 2019. According to Sullivan Fire and Sullivan Police, the ground search for missing Sullivan resident Betty Alexander is being wrapped up at this time. Sullivan Fire is turning the search over to Sullivan Police. Police will continue to work the investigation as a missing person. Kind of interesting here. It's not often that I hear that fire is kind of part of a missing persons investigation like this. I think this might be another effect because of that kind of small town situation that we're looking at in this town in particular. But it really seems like the community rallied together. Tanya has expressed that in some interviews as well, just how moved she is at how everyone came together to try to find her mother. Block by block searches, canines, all kinds of stuff has been tried. Unfortunately, here we are 3 months later, we still don't have an answer for where she is. Over at emissourian.com, silver alert issued, and this is on April 15th, 2019. An endangered silver alert has been issued for a 69-year-old Sullivan woman who has been missing since April 11th. She might not be wearing shoes. Just once again, want to drill that point in with you guys. And I guess I should bring you up to speed on what's going on with the medical condition. She does suffer from early stages of dementia. And what we're seeing here certainly seems like a situation like that. Like maybe she forgot where she was and walked out of her home and then got lost or something along those lines. The thing is, in a small town environment like this, and in particular with one of her sightings, she's at one of the places that I would think is probably one of the most safest places in town if that sighting is legit. It's pretty strange to me that no one noticed, hey, there's an elderly woman that's walking around. She doesn't have shoes on. She's looking kind of lost. Maybe we can help her get home. Especially in a town of that size, a good chance that, hey, is that Betty? You know, can we call her family and let them know that she's out wandering around? So it's really, really tough to me. There's another aspect here in that where she lives is close to kind of an industrialized area. It's kind of a mix of residential, industrialized, and then kind of the downtown Main Street is literally just a few blocks away from where she was living as well. In terms of a living arrangement, not a terrible thing, because literally within 2 blocks she could be at a bunch of services on Main Street, and it does seem like she might have been heading in that direction. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and bring up an article here. Sullivan Police continue search. Tanya Tolliver is the daughter of Betty Alexander, and she tells us where Alexander was last spotted. So let's listen to that together.
There were 2 witnesses that had actually talked to her at her house. One was a neighbor, and one is her normal cleaning lady that comes in. She was bringing her food that day. We did have a report. The detective talked to 2 individuals who were coming out of work right down the road from her, and they said that they had spotted her kind of standing on the side of the road staring at the fire station. So that is the last time that she was seen would be 5 o'clock on Thursday.
And that's what I mean by she might have been close to one of the safest places in town. She was literally standing near the fire station. Let me bring up a map and I can show you guys what we're talking about here. So this is the apartments where she was living. And as you can see, if we just take a spin around here, got a little bit of construction going on here. There's actually train tracks that are running right along the side of where her apartments are as well. There's tracks that run all across that way. We can see there's some other industrial buildings across the tracks, but then we get into a few homes. Looks like maybe a lumber yard that's back there, and then more homes kind of in this direction. If we take a look at it from the top view, so her apartments are over here. And the sighting, if that sighting is legit, it sounds like she was spotted near the Sullivan Fire Department here. Now that is also very close to what is literally called Main Street. And if we take a look at it, we can see there are a lot of services. Here's the tracks that I was talking about that run by her apartment. So her apartment is just down this road a ways. Here is the fire department. And then just over here, we start getting into businesses that are on what is called West Main Street. Now, I've done just a quick scan of these businesses. I don't know if any of these businesses have cameras outdoors. I think that would have been useful in the investigation, and we probably would have heard some information about that. I haven't run into any of that. But if she was truly spotted at this corner and some of these businesses potentially have cameras that are facing the street, I'd be very, very interested to know if that information was reviewed by search team or by the authorities looking into this. I know some of you are probably wondering, what about cell phone? Apparently, she did not have a cell phone. She just couldn't figure out cell phones, and she didn't have any interest in having one. So let's continue with some more details here. This is over at ksmu.org. 69-year-old Betty Alexander was last seen at her Sullivan, Missouri apartment on April 10th. Alexander's daughter, Tanya Tolliver, told KSMU that her mother was beginning to show early signs of dementia, but it had not progressed enough for them to believe it played a factor in her disappearance. As far as the searches, we've had K9 teams come in. I think we had 6 different teams so far, searches by helicopter, by drone, also using infrared, and they have come up with nothing, Tolliver said. Another article from emissourian.com. Tanya Tolliver told the Missourian her mother was last seen Wednesday, April 10th around 1:15 p.m. Alexander was at her apartment and had received a delivery from Sink's Pharmacy at that time. It's interesting because the NamUs information says she was seen in her garden at 3, which would have theoretically been after this. And the time frame that Tanya is talking about for the potential sighting at the fire station is actually the following day. It's on Thursday around 5. So that would by far be the latest and most recent sighting. But of course, we don't have confirmation that that sighting is legit. She said the family discovered that Alexander took her medicine that night around 7 p.m., so they're talking about Wednesday, April 10th, but did not take her medicine the following day. Tolliver says Alexander's disappearance has been narrowed down to after 7 p.m. and before the morning of Thursday, April 11th. It was a few days later that the family noticed Alexander was missing. On Sunday, April 14th at 4:30 p.m., Tolliver stopped by her mother's apartment in Center Street Apartments complex to pick up Alexander. She said Alexander did not answer her phone when she called as Tolliver was driving over. When Tolliver arrived, the door was locked, so she let herself in with a key. When I walked in, I saw she had the Meals on Wheels sitting on her table, Tolliver said. I picked up the milk to see if it was still cold, and it wasn't, so I started looking around and I saw her glasses sitting on the arm of her recliner. She added that it's unusual for her mother to leave the house without her glasses. She saw Alexander's purse was left inside a closet that has her wallet, medications, her apartment key, her non-driver's license, and other belongings. So a lot of concern going on here because basically everything that she would normally take if she was leaving the home is left in the home. And one of the big ones for me is her apartment key. Does that mean that she had stepped outside? She wasn't anticipating on being gone very long, had left her door unlocked, something along those lines, perhaps then got confused while she was outside, or something happened to her while she was outside. I don't know. We've searched through the woods and still have come up with nothing. We have no clues, said her daughter. Now, this is a blog, so just keep that in mind. But I know that the Facebook page has posted a video that was done by Sinova also, and they were talking about how good she was in terms of getting the details right. And I can tell you most of the information that she wrote about in this blog, I've been able to find other sources for, and she is spot on the nose. But she raises a few really strong considerations that I wanted to share with you guys, and that's why we're going to go over just a little bit of the information from here. Friday, April 12th, the Meals on Wheels delivery driver found the woman wasn't home, but her door was unlocked. The delivery driver left her food on the table and left the apartment, leaving the door unlocked. Now, that's kind of curious because we know based on the last article, when Tanya gets there on Sunday, her door is somehow locked. So what happened between Friday and Sunday is a bit of a question. The food would sit on that table until Sunday when Betty's daughter Tanya arrived to take her mother on a pre-planned shopping trip. This article is also pointing out Betty never got the hang of how to use a cell phone and didn't have one. And although nothing looked out of place in the apartment, some family members noticed some medication missing. And then this article is kind of going into theorizing, is this a crime in regards to her medication? Did someone come in and try to steal some of her meds? Something along those lines. But other medications were left behind. So it doesn't quite seem likely, but it is certainly strange that some of her medication is missing. I'm wondering if possibly with the dementia angle, is she having trouble keeping track of her medication? Did she possibly take too much medication that day? Did that kick in some type of side effect that might have affected her judgment or her memory? I'm kind of concerned about that angle. Also, it's strange that Meals on Wheels found the door unlocked on Friday, but the door was locked by the time Tanya arrived on Sunday. Very strange consideration. I'm not sure if we have a friendly neighbor that might have noticed the door was unlocked and locked it up for her, but I'd be very surprised that that neighbor didn't come out with that information and that information didn't come through in terms of media and Tanya speaking to the media. So I did just want to do a quick touch on dementia. I brought up this article at Medical News today, and it's very clear right off the bat that there are many different types of dementia, and we don't really know what specific type is affecting her. All we know is Tanya's information and her opinion that dementia is, she doesn't think that it's a factor in this missing persons case. I'm struggling with that a little bit, particularly if we buy the sighting of her being at the firehouse. But we also didn't get any information with that sighting that they noticed that she wasn't wearing shoes. So maybe did they see another older lady that was standing there and confuse her with Betty, something along those lines? I don't know. But many different types of dementia, we don't know which one. But there are 10 typical early signs. Of course, memory loss. A person with dementia may find it difficult to recall information they have recently learned, such as dates or events or new information. Now, I did look into her address history, and it looks like she had been living at this place for at least 4 years prior to this. I don't know if it is in scope or out of scope to believe that she could have forgot that she was living there, or maybe she felt like she lived at her previous home. Looks like she was at her previous home for, I think, about 10 years at that address. Difficulty planning or solving problems certainly could be a factor in this case if she found herself outside, didn't realize where she was, or couldn't remember how to get back home. Difficulty doing familiar tasks, once again, kind of touches on the same thing that I'm worried about, and being confused about time or place. So I did take a look, like I said, at her address history, and another thing that's interesting is she basically lived fairly close to where she lives now. She's within 2 miles of where her older home is. And if that sighting is accurate about the firehouse and her heading towards Main Street, that actually is on the way towards her old home. There is a park that's over there. So I don't know. I don't know if maybe in her mindset, she had forgotten where she was. She didn't feel like she was home and she was trying to get back home. But considering that it's not that far, knowing how intensively they've been searching for her, I'd be very surprised that they didn't find her at this point. And she has to walk right by a hospital effectively to get there. We've got a lot of good Samaritans on this path, and I'm really having trouble figuring out what happened. Where is she? Why isn't someone seeing her and able to help her and get her back to her family and to her home? Over at mysullivannews.com, Sullivan Police, assisted by Sullivan Fire Department dive team, conducted a search of the Sullivan Golf Course Lake. Divers were searching to see if Alexander may have somehow ended up in the lake, the nearest body of water to her residence. No evidence was found of Alexander being in the lake. So if we go back to our map, we can see she lives here. I'm just going to zoom out, and that's one of the good things about not using the satellite view is it's very easy to find water sources. I believe this is the golf course lake here. That's the one that they searched. What's interesting to me is it's the nearest one to her, but not by a whole lot. I would also be interested in searching this one up here and possibly this one down here. Quite honestly, they're all of a very similar distance, and they're all in the range of being a little bit over a mile away from where she lived. So it's interesting to me that they've searched this one, but honestly, this is a bigger water source, and I'd be much more concerned about the ability to find her if she was in this water source as well. Yeah, that's really what I'm seeing for the biggest risks there. But I do appreciate that they at least searched the Sullivan Golf Course Lake kind of right off the bat. This is actually an article from back where she was only missing for a few weeks at this point. Sullivan Police Lieutenant Patrick Johnson reported to the Independent News that the department continues to work on the case diligently and determine what may or may not have happened. We've gone over the case extensively, going back from our first initial report and retracing our efforts and the search group's efforts as well, said Johnson. The town has been searched extensively and still no signs or indications as to what may or may not have happened. We continue to follow up with leads daily. Authorities continued to ask the community to be on the lookout for Alexander, including looking in any of their outbuildings, sheds, or garages. Seeing the types of businesses that are around where she's living, we get into a little bit of a logistics problem because those are private property. I don't know if the owners have been welcoming to search parties coming onto their premises, but some of those areas look like there's a lot of different sheds, a lot of different buildings. We don't know how often those buildings are searched. I do understand this is a smaller community. I think exposure to this case is probably pretty high in that community, and I would like to think that the owner of those establishments or the owners of those establishments are asking their employees to search the premises. But just seeing how open the access is to some of those locations, I'm certainly concerned about that possibility as well. KMOV.com posts on May 11th, 2019 that she has been missing for a month now. Loved ones of a missing 69-year-old woman with dementia are still searching the streets a month into her disappearance. They still have no leads. A $2,500 reward was issued for any details or information that would help authorities locate her. On May 7th, the reward was increased to $3,000. I understand that it was from citizens, I think, that were contributing to get that reward to where it's at. So I just wanted to give them a very big thank you, and I really appreciate them helping the family in this way. Police said she doesn't have her medication with her. Once again, just wanted to point out we're talking about a fairly risky situation here off the get-go, and then when we know there's a medical need like that, it just raises it. This is the latest article I could find on this. Sullivan family still has faith. This is from June 27th, 2019. Sullivan resident Betty Alexander, 69, has been missing for 11 weeks, but her family has not given up hope. The Missouri Highway Patrol Investigative Division is now assisting in the case. I'm moved at seeing how many different departments are helping with this case, and I wish that we saw that type of collaboration on more missing persons cases. As of right now, we still have absolutely no clues, Tolliver said. She and her family have been following up with Alexander's friends and anyone who may have a relation to her, as well as any leads. If there are any future searches that we're going to do, we'll put it up on the Bring Betty Home Facebook page, Tolliver said. Until we find otherwise, I'm still keeping hope that we will find her one way or another, and hopefully it winds up with a happy ending, said her daughter, Tanya. So there is a Facebook page, Bring Betty Home. I'll have a link to it in the description box down below, along with the contact information, along with every source that we've looked at today as well. If you do have extra time, I'd say come to this page. If you are local, first of all, look for upcoming events. But outside of that, if you scroll down far enough, you will find a video. Here it is, right here. From Sonova. And I do think it's I think I've covered most of the same points as Sonova, but of course she has a little bit of a different perspective. She did a really good job on this video, so I just wanted to point that out and direct you guys to this if you want to learn more about this case. If you have friends or family that live in the Missouri area, please send this video to them. Let's keep exposure raised to this case. We're only 3 months in. We don't want it to go much longer. Things like this are extremely hard on families. Even reading through the Facebook page, I was seeing just some pressure that's getting to the family members and them having issues with each other. It's understandable when you're dealing with cases like this regularly. I see this all the time. Family members are extremely hurt and angry and uncomfortable in situations like this, and sometimes they kind of get at each other a little bit. Seeing just a little bit of that in this case, but I really just want to put the word out there. We need everyone to work together to find the answers here. just remember to stay focused. I know it's tough, and it gets really tough when sometimes you feel like everyone isn't doing everything they could be doing. I totally understand that, but getting everyone on the same team is such an important aspect of these missing persons cases. I just wanted to end today's segment with just another little bit of video from Tanya.
We've had, I don't know how many people show up to help walk, both yesterday, and up until last night when it got dark, and then again today all day. It's been amazing how everybody has come together to try and help.
Once again, just a huge thank you from me to everyone in that community that is helping this family and looking for Betty Alexander. Before I end today's video, I have several people to thank for making donations through PayPal. If you want to do the same, you can do it at www.lordenarts.com. You can help keep me here doing what I love doing, trying to help families in these terrible situations. Big thank you to Sophie Battelle for a donation, and she's doing this one in honor of her brother Vincent, who passed away 10 years ago. Sophie, thank you so much for the donation, and I'm very sorry that you lost that family member. A big thank you to Bella. Another thank you to Nicholas Vandenbroek. Big thank you to Randy Volkel, Emma Rostron, Jennifer Wilson, Michael Park, Mark Witt, and Hillary Green. Thank you each for making a donation. I truly appreciate it. I need all the help I can get, considering what YouTube's been doing to this type of content lately. Take care, everyone. I'll see you back here on Friday with a brand new episode of Brainscratch right here on the Lord and Arts channel.